My dad's trying to get into pressing a little bit more.
I have a lot to learn, so I'm really excited to talk to Rick about the things that we can do with it.
All right, Rick, you've been dealing with making comics their best selves for a long time, yeah?
Cleaning and pressing comics since the late 80s, actually. It was not a way to win friends or influence people back then, but it is now. We'll do a basic press, and then we'll remove some spine ticks.
I like it.
This press is only heated in an element from the top. And when you press a book, and I call it the big wavies, you can see a spot that'll had been heated hotter and cooler, and there's some imperfections in it, especially around the top. We'll see it on the top and the bottom edges. So to distribute that heat evenly and the pressure evenly from the press, we use these metal boards. These have a high heat capacity and a high heat conductivity, which is why we use aluminum and not steel. The bottom itself isn't heated, so we want to put a lot of heat. See how thick this is compared to the top one? We want to put a lot of heat in the bottom, so it acts kind of like a flywheel. It's a storage tank for heat to heat up the bottom of the book. We don't want the book to be heated on the top more than the bottom, because if the top were to become hotter than the bottom, then the top would become drier than the bottom, and it would be convex, and vice versa, it'd be concave. It's subtle, but you'll see that the corners can rise up on their own. So we're now preheating this board. When it gets up to about 160 degrees or so, we'll put it in. These are chamfered pressing boards. I'm only going to use one on the top in this book because the back doesn't have the same divots that the front does. But if you look, this is curves to follow the shape of the spine. Now, this is a modern book, so because it's modern, I have to use more of the paper because this would stick to here. So I put this here, and this gives us, you can see it gives us the nice arc of the page that we want. So we'll put some pressing paper in there. I have a few pages here. This is silicone release paper, and I have this made in Oregon. This is only on the modern books. I don't really do this on the bronze or silver books, but it's to keep the ink from drying on there. I'm gonna put this on top, and I'll put a sheet on the bottom as well. Some people put them in the center of the book. I have a lot better luck keeping this shape on the top like this. And the back doesn't have the defects, otherwise I would put one into the back too. So here we go. I'll slide this on here. Now the bottom is pretty toasty now. It should be very uncomfortable to touch. And then I'll put another piece on the top. This is the part that's more art than science, is getting it to be around 50 to 60 pounds per square inch on the top, which you have to sort of estimate. I have a pressure sensor that I use, but you can gauge this. The timer will start automatically when we press this down. That's about right, actually. Set this down, it'll start at 600 seconds. We'll turn it off, and I like to let them go to ambient temperature, which takes about 40 minutes. Then I cold press it. Put it under one of these guys here, over another hard surface. It's a cold pressing board, and I leave it there for, depending on how bad it was, 3 to 5 days. So the reason that we do that is the slower it can come back to the normal temperature, to ambient temperature that it is, the more the paper is trained to stay flat. Now this board weighs 2 pounds. You could also take a thinner board and put one of these big nuts on it.
Phrasing.
But this is nice and thick, it's insulating, you can see through it, and it lets the book stay at a constant temperature and pressure for several days. And you actually don't want it to be too high of a pressure, because too high of a pressure puts a force on a book out like this. It's pushing down, but also pushing out. Because what I mean is there's a spring force under there that you don't quite see coming back when it's too high. Who hasn't split a spine or popped a staple, right?
Oh my God.
The top or the bottom edge will split like this, or the staple just pulls right inside the book. The center of the book's rigid. It's under a lot of tension and pressure, but the outermost part is now more subject to moving away from the center. So you have more what they call shearing force.
Well, and the older paper, the bronze and the silver, it's more forgiving if you have staple stuff. Absolutely. I've absolutely had more problems if you're pressing a modern book and it will like show the imprint of the staple all the way through. So not even like you're going to pop the staple, just that when you pull the paper and everything off, you're going to see the outline of what the staples look like because you used too much pressure.
Yeah. You might not have noticed that I picked this up and I paused because a lot of times the book will stick to this and you'll just drag it right off of there. More than once I've dragged a book out of there and dropped it looking for it, and I dropped it on the floor. And then here you go. So now look at this. Look how much better that looks. And it needs more time because it wasn't in there quite cooling enough. So you see how the edges have kind of lifted? That's the cold press will take care of that.
Oh, wow.
But we leave it like this. I leave it in the sandwich. I put it on a flat surface, and then this is as complicated as cold pressing is. You set it here just to make sure it lays flat because the danger of catching a corner. I start at the spine and then load the right end first. And that's it. In 3 to 5 days, you won't have any more problems.